Howdy folks, Jamboree here, and today I'm going to be taking a big bite out of Roland Emmerich's critically panned Godzilla reboot from the 90s. When biologist Nick is hired to help the military, he discovers that a new breed of creature has been created, a giant radioactive mutation of iguana that's been nicknamed Godzilla. Nick tries to convince the army that Zilla also has a nest of ravenous babies, but they won't listen to him. Meanwhile, Nick's ex, a wannabe journalist called Audrey, reunites with Nick. The biggest insult that this film makes is how much it fails to represent Godzilla's legacy. It's very much Godzilla in name only, with Zilla's design better resembling beasts from 20,000 Fathoms. Plus, this Godzilla rarely ever breathes fire, and moves a lot faster like a real reptile, even though it weighs 10 more times than a regular iguana. Now, the filmmakers have stated that they thought it would be more respectful to Toho if they made their own personal version of Godzilla, which I kind of get, because they could have run the risk of making a poor imitation of a beloved legacy. But on the other hand, if that was the direction in mind, then Emmerich could have just invented a new monster IP for Columbia TriStar, because the filmmakers got so carried away with these changes that it's no longer Godzilla, which is just as offensive as making a bad replica of Toho's Godzilla. I wouldn't even say that this Godzilla 100% commits to being its own original incarnation, because so many aspects of the film are just carbon copies of other successful monster movies. Not only does Godzilla's nest scene try way too hard to emulate a scene from Alien, but said babies are made to look less like infant mutant iguanas and closer to the velociraptors from Jurassic Park. I can't begin to describe how much Emmerich tries to shamelessly rip off the Spielberg classic. The movie also can't decide if Godzilla is a dangerous villain or a sympathetic creature. Sure, a character can be both, but Emmerich doesn't find a natural balance of the two. Sometimes, we're meant to cheer on the military beating Zilla.
Direct hit! Congratulations, sir.
Other times, Nick will express compassion for Zilla, yet never does anything more than stare at him with wonder or sorrow. All while he complies with the military in their effort to kill him.
Well, when I had to catch earthworms, I knew that the best way to get them was not to dig them out, but to draw them out. All we need to do is to find out what he needs.
In all honesty, Godzilla was the only character that I felt anything for. He's just an animal trying to survive, and the result of environmental damage caused by humans. And I found myself rooting for him over the humans. Mainly because our main characters are either tediously boring or plain annoying. Most of them are flat, cartoony stereotypes, like the nerdy scientist, the put-upon assistant, the nagging wife, the most New Yorkian man in New York, the egocentric news anchor, and the token French guy that likes French things.
No croissant? Non, monsieur.
It doesn't help that two characters are literal parody caricatures of two critics that hurt Emmerich's poor fragile ego.
If I'm wrong on this evacuation, they'll string me up from the Liberty Torch.
Didn't we agree that we weren't going to have any sweets until after the election?
Back off, Gene.
So I don't see these characters as people. They're just cardboard cutouts to fill in typical disaster movie roles. Oh, and don't get me started on how the film writes romance between its flat characters. First we have Victor and Lucy, who follow the tired old, unhappily married couple formula that's become very dated now.
Oh, please. Your life doesn't suck. His life sucks.
Because I'm married to you.
But I think what annoys me the most about these two is that Lucy is the one who encourages Audrey to embrace being a more villainous reporter.
I don't know if this is a very good idea, Luce. What are you talking about? You stole it. Finally, you got a little chutzpah. Don't win bad on me.
But once Audrey gets hurt, Lucy blames everything on her dopey husband.
Where's Audrey?
In the bedroom, crying her eyes out because of you.
Me? What did I do?
All that you gotta be vicious stuff you filled her head with.
Why haven't these two divorced yet? Secondly, there's Nick and Audrey. A relationship that already has red flags, because 8 years ago, Audrey abandoned Nick without giving him any closure, so that she could go pursue her journalism career. All power to her chasing her dream, but it's really immature of her to leave Nick in the dark instead of breaking up like an adult.
He left without a phone call, a letter, nothing. All this time, yeah. Yeah, I guess I am still a little mad.
Then, when the two reunite, Audrey is given another chance, but she ends up stealing Nick's private military tape for her own news story, which gets him fired. This should have just ended everything right there, and I would understand why Nick would cut her off from this point.
Good luck with your new career. Really think you have what it takes? Newark Airport.
But oh no, we can't make a Hollywood movie without a leading hetero love story. So Audrey tries to win back Nick by going to help the scientists find Zilla's nest, with no military supervision. So she and a cameraman just end up getting in the way.
Who the hell are you?
Audrey.
Sure, Audrey ends up using her news connections to alert the military about the found baby Zillas, while proving Nick's nest theory right. But let's not act like this was a selfless act on her end. She knows that this is great publicity for her as a reporter. I'm baffled that Nick takes Audrey back in the end, because she clearly can't stop putting her career before him.
Reporting live from Madison Square Garden, this is Audrey Timmons for WIDF News.
The film also has a habit of being way too literal with its storytelling. I know that it's just a Hollywood blockbuster and I shouldn't expect any kind of artistic nuance, but there's so many insulting prompts or cues in this film that it's eye-rolling. As soon as the movie begins, the credits are showered with images of nuclear science and reptiles, so that the film can knock its premise over the apparently brainless audience's heads. Then we continue to get condescending storytelling beats, from Nick finding out that Zilla likes fish because he finds labeled tins of fish in a carrier that Godzilla destroyed, to an incredibly ridiculous scene in which Nick uses convenience store pregnancy tests made for humans to find out that a giant radioactive dinosaur is pregnant. I'm not kidding.
Obviously, these tests weren't designed for this, but fundamentally they look for the same hormonal patterns to indicate pregnancy.
I'm sure that folks will defend the film's more silly elements by assuring me that we're not meant to take the movie seriously, and that it's okay for a Godzilla film to be a bit silly. I'm not naive to Godzilla's goofier side, and know its history of ridiculous moments. However, that argument can only go so far. Sure, this film has a sense of humour, but I'd best describe the comedy as a series of dad jokes and dry quips.
Wrong floor.
The humour is nothing in the vein of what made old Godzilla films laughably entertaining in a charming way. Godzilla 1998 is not tongue-in-cheek, self-aware, or flamboyantly campy enough for me to oversee its dumb ideas as a bit of cheesy fun. Classic Toho Godzilla films affectionately laughed with audiences, while Emmerich's Godzilla mocks audiences' intelligence. I mean, it still wants to be an edgy reboot of the Godzilla franchise for hip 90s audiences, with its straight-played, tension-driven military scenes.
Echo 4, where is target?
Oh, Jesus! He's right on my tail, sir!
And cinematically imposing portrayal of Zilla. We're meant to take this film serious to some extent, so we're allowed to be annoyed at anything that takes us out of the movie's dramatic storytelling. Godzilla is mainly portrayed through computer animation. Now, I'm sure that these effects impressed audiences back in 1998, when CGI was in its infancy. Plus, there were much worse CGI effects examples in the 90s. But at the same time, there were also better CGI in the movies that Emmerich wanted to copy. The effects crew did what they could with the technology at the time, but I can also see why modern audiences would cringe at the rendering today. The film also employed animatronics and still performance. These shots have aged a lot better than the CGI, but they do look a little rubbery and stiff, and none of these practical effects are remarkable for dinosaur cinema, especially in the same decade that Jurassic Park and Super Mario Bros. Came out. But you can see that the puppeteers had a lot of fun on set. And look at the detail inside these dinos' mouths. Oh, and I love how much miniature set work was adopted into the cityscape scenes. This is the kind of effects work that's in line with classic Godzilla. To conclude, Godzilla 1998 not only fails as a Godzilla tribute, but once you take the Godzilla brand out of the title, we're just left with a humdrum, uninspired monster movie, suffering from unlikable flat characters, patronizing storytelling, and a huge lack of originality. Oh, and it's way too boring to be enjoyed as mindless blockbuster fun. I can't count how many times it made me want to yawn. But what did you think of this film? Let everyone know in the comments below. I've been Jambariki, cheerio folks.
Will George save the day? Find out in George of the Jungle 2, an all-new movie.